Welcome to The Guide.
The Guide.
This week, we are talking about periods.
My neighbors are
They're arguing. So, we got a lot of feedback from our last episode of the podcast, which was all about periods. So if you haven't checked that out, go listen to that episode. It is great, especially if you're a female. I think it's just like a very safe place to be.
Yeah, it's very relatable. I mean, if you've had your period, you know what we're talking about, and if you haven't, maybe there's some good things you can learn in there to prepare yourself.
Emily and I both talk about like little horror stories. I wouldn't say horror stories, but that we had. I think almost every girl has a story that can relate to it.
Yeah.
The first time we got our period, products that we like to use, period sex, all that good stuff. So definitely check that out. And then just kind of rolling off of that, we had a lot of feedback. So we kind of wanted to hit some points that people were asking us about to go more in depth in. But then also, we had a bunch of TikTok comments that were absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. So I shared the video of of me talking about the first time I got my period and thinking I shat my pants. And all of the comments were so fucking funny. So we wanted to share some of these because they're kind of like other people's stories of like first having their periods, and they're just extremely relatable. This girl said, "Mine was literally black and I was terrified. I was dying. So I didn't tell anyone until I got the real thing at sleepaway camp. It was hell." But it's like, you did get the real thing before, girl. Like, that's what that was.
Yes.
I got into an argument one night with my mom, and she prayed, "Lord, if she's gonna start her period, let it be now." Amen. And I woke up the next morning and I started.
That's actually so funny. That's me.
That's
me like when I cry and I'm like, "Lord, please let me get my period so I know I'm a little bitch."
I know. I got mine in the middle of the night while I was wearing white pajamas. I went to the bathroom in the morning and saw red. I thought I was dying. My dad did my laundry and said loudly, "You need to wipe better, you got skids." My mom had to talk with him shortly after. Such a dad.
You got skids.
And then another one said, "I thought it was poop. I was so embarrassed, so I threw it in the laundry pile." And even more embarrassing, my mom was excited to see me hit puberty and she did my laundry.
It's like, we're laughing with you because like everybody has a story, and like especially as a female, like you have a story about your period, and like we're gonna continuously have more. Like we're only 25. Like
yeah, I still have plenty of underwear that look like they have skid marks in it because of blood.
Like I'm wearing them right now. In fact,
fair enough.
It just be like that sometimes. Thank you guys for all your feedback. It was so much fun to like hear from you guys. And then we also had a lot of girls asking us to kind of talk more about our story about getting off of birth control a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, kind of more like the logistics behind it and like how we went about it, like what we were experiencing, and then kind of how to like we dealt with the things that we were experiencing. So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about more in this episode.
Exactly. So for me, like getting off of birth control, I honestly, like we've already talked about this, but was just kind of like a no-brainer. I wasn't really having sex a lot. Like there was no real reason. Like I felt like it was doing me a lot of more harm than it was good. Like I felt like very depressed and anxious all the time. Like I couldn't lose weight, like all these different things. And it was a time in my life where I was like I think I was 24 then. Yeah, because it was like a year ago. Like 23, 24. And I was like, honestly, like it's fine if I'm not on birth control. Like I already beat the odds about not being a teen mom.
This is also pre-Roe, so we were like, we can just get back on it if we want.
Exactly. We were just like, I was just kind of like, honestly, I think it'd just be the best for me. And at this time too, I was kind of going through like a whole transformation of like doing a lot more holistic things. And like birth control obviously isn't holistic, so I also decided to get off it. From there, my biggest thing was I didn't have my period every month. I like would skip it months. I still have a very irregular period. Like it is not on a 28-day cycle. Like typically is when you're on birth control. It's like without a doubt, you know you're gonna get it in 28 days.
Right.
I can get in 28. I can get in 30. Sometimes it's early. Sometimes it's late. It's wild, and I think that's like it's very scary. Like as a female, when you're used to getting your period for 14 years straight, 28 days, every single time, and then to go from like, where is it?
Right.
Because we're taught that it's like a very healthy thing to get it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So that's a little difficult. That's something I've been dealing with still, and it's been over a year of not being on birth control, and I think I'm at a point where it's like my natural body just doesn't have it regularly.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm dealing with and trying to like figure out. Still present day. So this isn't something like if you get off of it, like you're gonna be cool in like a couple months and like whatever. Another big thing for me is acne. Acne is massive.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. It's like hormonal acne and you can't stop it. And it's body acne. It's not just on your face.
I don't think anybody really talks about that too, especially like on the adult side of coming off birth control. Because the reason I was prescribed birth control in the first place was for acne. But in my head, I had assumed like after you go through puberty in your teenage years, acne is not really a thing you deal with anymore. So me going off the birth control, I didn't realize how bad my acne actually was until I got off of it. And so dealing with that now, like I feel like if you are planning to get off the pill, like understanding that like if you do have acne prone skin, like it will come up again.
And I know a lot of people who are like, the reason I got back onto birth control after getting off of it was because my acne was so bad, but like you just have to go through it. It does get better.
It definitely gets more manageable.
For me, a couple things that I've used is benzoyl peroxide, and it's like a little cream that you can get. You can literally get it at Target. It's not even $4. And it's a little tube. It's for acne.
It works great, and then you can also, like, if you go to your doctor, they can prescribe that to you, and if you have insurance, it's covered. Because I have, like, a prescribed version, it's just more intense, basically.
Yeah, this is 10% benzoyl peroxide gel from Target, and it's $3.79.
Yeah.
So super, super cheap. Also recently, I can't say that I use this in like the midst of me having like a crazy like face or whatever. But so this is Dr. Jart's, I cannot pronounce the first name, I'm gonna pop it up on the screen because I can't say it. But it's Tiger Grass Cooling Mist. And I have seen a total difference in that. It just is like a very light spray. You can kind of put it on whenever. And it's just been helping so much with my acne and just like kind of keeping everything at bay. But I've been loving that recently. I did not do that when I had like crazy acne going through all of that. Honestly, in that time, I just kind of let my face go. I stopped using a ton of products because
I would also recommend that too, like,
yes,
because you are going through essentially like a reset. Getting off of your hormones, your body needs to kind of regulate itself, and a lot of times, especially with acne, you think like putting on more products is better to, you know, aid in the skin. And there's some people that does work, but for me, I have very sensitive skin, and I found it almost works better if I'm more gentle and light-handed on everything that I use when I'm in the midst of breaking out.
Oh yeah, I went with the less is more approach here because it was so bad for a couple months. Just wash my face, I'd put on a moisturizer, a very thin moisturizer, and I'd put on sunscreen. And that's what I did for like a good 3 months, just to kind of let my face like reset. So kind of go back to the less is more approach. Those are the things that I really had a problem with when it came to getting off birth control. I didn't really have other issues that were like crazy. I've heard some people have crazy stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, like being able to lose weight a lot easier.
Yeah, that's nice. That's like a really nice part about getting off birth control, especially if you've been struggling with like, even if it's just like this, like 3 pounds or whatever that you're trying to lose, like on birth control, I was unable to even do that.
Yeah.
And so like that was really frustrating. And then I would say my cravings are a lot better off of birth control. Like I feel like when I was on birth control, I would eat, whenever I was having these cravings, it was like they were never satiated by like what I would eat. But now that I'm off it, I don't think they're as bad. And then also, I will say the bad side, I didn't really ever experience cramps while I was on birth control, and if I did, they were very light, like they weren't a big deal. And I have them really bad now. So I would say that's probably, for me, the acne and the cramping is the worst. My periods are very regular. Like even off of birth control, like I've had no issue with it being super consistent, but the cramping and the acne has been the two like downsides for me. But overall, my mental health is like so much better than it ever was when I was on birth control. And that's been the biggest benefit for me. Like,
I
regardless of the weight, regardless of the whatever, the fact that I don't have to take my antidepressants anymore is crazy.
Yeah, no, honestly, I was in a really bad place. Like, by the time I decided to get off birth control, that, like, I would say that is the biggest benefit. So it really, really is still worth it. So I know there's a lot of bad things we kind of talked about, but at the end of the day, like, I wouldn't change going back onto the pill for...
Me neither. But we're not saying don't be safe during sex. Please have protected sex. There's many other forms of birth control. This, we're talking mainly on a stance of hormonal pill birth control.
Correct. Coming off of birth control, like, that's kind of really all we have for you. And we were asked by a lot of girls to kind of touch on that a little bit more and, like, our experience personally. So yeah, if you guys have anything else when it comes to your period or women's, like, hygiene or anything like that, definitely leave comments below. You can DM us separately too if you don't want it out there, like, publicly.
Totally.
And we'd love to answer it for you and do another episode of the guide on this topic.
Yeah, and it's a big decision. I think about it a lot beforehand, and even if you want to get on it, I would say do your research, because
I think there's also so many more different birth controls today than when we started with birth control. Like, there wasn't a lot
different forms.
An IUD wasn't even a thing when I started birth control.
And it wasn't offered because of our age as well. Like, we were too young for that to really be, like, a serious option.
The only option was the pill.
So yeah, there's a million different forms of birth control. Whatever works best for you, go with that. This is just our experience on it, and we do understand, like, we're at a very difficult time to access birth control, to figure out what works for you. But yeah, it's all up to you. We're not telling you to do one thing or the other. This is just our experience with it. We had a ton of questions about it.
And on that note, we're gonna wrap it up.
But anyways, thanks for watching another episode of The Guide. Make sure you guys are hitting us up in our DM. Tell us what you want to hear about. We have a couple of other concepts coming up moving forward with the show, but we always would love more suggestions on what you guys want us to talk about, and then also just, like, questions that you have. Like, we love answering direct questions.
Yeah, and we want to hear from you guys. It's so much fun, and it makes this more enjoyable when you guys write in and tell us and stuff, or give us specific topics to, like, actually dive deep about, because we learn a lot about ourselves then too.
Totally.
So thank you guys. We will see you on Friday for the video version of the podcast.
Okay, bye.
Bye.